guys, how's it going? Without further ado, I present to you the 2015 Ford Mustang EcoBoost. This particular car is in competition orange, which is a gorgeous color, and I recently found out that that's only going to be available through the 2016 models. So as of 2017, you will no longer be able to get this color. I'm not really sure why they did that, but they are bringing back the grabber blue, which is kind of nice. This car has a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that creates 310 horsepower and 320 foot-pounds of torque. I'm not really a numbers guy, so you know I can't really tell you the details too much beyond that, but all I know is my overall opinion of this car is it's a fantastic car, and I will tell you why. There's a bunch of reasons for that. Anybody who's driven a previous model Mustang knows what pitfalls those previous models had. One of the biggest downfalls, in my opinion, of them was the interior. Now, you could argue you're buying a performance car, the interior really isn't that important, and for the most part, you'd be right. But I think there's also a certain point where that just doesn't really make sense as an argument. I mean, I really felt like the previous models, their interior had just been so neglected for so long that they were really sorely out of date and needed some updates. So thankfully, as of 2015, they've really done that. They've done a superb job of the interior of this car. So this particular car is the premium model. It comes with the two-tone leather, full leather interior. The seats are very nice and comfortable. This actually comes with air-conditioned and heated seats. It also features soft touch materials everywhere. Everything that you touch normally in the car feels very high quality and very nice to the touch. There's not a lot of cheap plastic everywhere. Even right up on the dashboard, it's nice soft touch material, so that's really nice. They've also revamped the steering wheel. The steering wheel feels very nice. It's got a little bit of a notch in the 10 and 2. Not too much, but there's a little bit of something there in the 10 and 2. You know, there's tons of buttons to help you with the infotainment system, and I really like the steering wheel. Speaking of the infotainment system on this has gotten a massive upgrade. It has this particular one, since it's 2015, has the Sync 2 system, and so it's got all touchscreen controls. It's got the XM satellite radio. Wonderful. It's starting to rain. It's got navigation if you want, Bluetooth capability, a voice command system. One thing that I've noticed that this sort of falls into trend with, and is kind of becoming a common trend among newer cars, is it does not have a CD player. I guess a CD player nowadays is kind of pointless. Not too many people use them anymore, but I guess it's just a sign of the times that manufacturers are starting to exclude them from their infotainment systems. Okay, so the drive. As I mentioned, this car has got quite a bit of horsepower, especially for a 4-cylinder. Out of the factory. It is rear-wheel drive. One of the main differences in the handling of this car is it now has independent rear suspension, whereas all the previous Mustangs had live axle. So there's pros and cons to it. The pros, in my opinion, far outweigh the cons. The biggest con that a lot of people seem to bring up is that a live axle is always better for taking off and going in a straight line. It's better, it's quicker that way. And while that is true, there are a lot of things that you sacrifice to get that. And one of the biggest things that you actually sacrifice with a live axle is handling. This car isn't nearly as tail happy as the previous Mustangs. That being said, if you stomp on it and go around a corner fast enough, it'll certainly sling around. There's no question about that. But it definitely feels more controlled and less unwieldy than the previous Mustangs. This particular car is fitted with a 6-speed automatic transmission. I have to say, for an automatic transmission, this one is actually quite good. It doesn't feel like a complete slush box like a lot of those automatic transmissions do in recent vehicles, especially like CVTs and things like that. It doesn't feel like it's struggling to keep up. I think it really does a fantastic job at timing the gear shifts, and they're not slow or anything like that. This is actually one of the first vehicles that I have driven where it'll actually chirp going into second gear if you're in sport mode. And that's something that historically has only really come out of a manual transmission. That being said, I mentioned sport mode, so this car does have a sport mode for the transmission, and what that does is it basically just speeds up gear shifts a little bit, makes it shift a little bit harder, a little bit quicker. It waits a little bit longer before it shifts in terms of RPM range. So if I put this into sport mode and stomp on it, it's gonna allow the engine to spin up a lot faster than it would if it was just a normal driving mode. That of course leads to quicker acceleration. But in terms of acceleration, you know, this car does quite good. It has no problem overtaking somebody on the highway. I guess the next question might be, how is this car as a daily driver? And to be honest, I think it's a fantastic daily driver, because while it has a lot of power, while it you know, is capable of quick takeoffs and hard shifts and all that, if you drive it in normal mode and you just kind of are coasting along the highway or along city streets, or other than that, the shifts are really smooth, and you know, there's not a lot of road noise. They've taken a lot of time to ensure that the cabin is a nice place to be. It's really a nice smooth ride when you want it to be, and it's, you know, it can be an outright beast when you want it to be. So it's really capable of shifting back and forth between those two roles quite well. We do a lot of city driving in this car. Its gas mileage for what it is actually pretty decent. Right now we're sitting at a 23.7 mile per gallon average. If I take this onto the highway, that can shoot up by 10 miles per gallon. That's not an exaggeration. I took this out and did some tests with it, and you know, did some long-range highway driving at 65 miles per hour, and, you know, just made sure not to gun it, and just kind of went really gently with it, and I was able to easily get 35 miles a gallon out of this car. So you know, it's also very capable of being practical. The only thing from a practicality standpoint that I would say it sort of lacks on, well, there's two things really. The first thing is the back seat isn't really all that useful. It's not the most useless I've seen, but I mean, you're not going to fit a full adult back there comfortably. I had one situation where I put two adults back there, and they were, let's just put it this way, it's a good thing we weren't going a long distance. You know, one adult might be able to sit back there sideways, but that's not exactly safe. I know our 60-pound dog can fit in the back seat, so, you know, it's good for that. The second thing is the trunk space. There's not a lot of it, and the opening to the trunk is quite small. So unfortunately, you know, it's not something that gives you a lot of cargo space, but then again, it's not trying to be. So, you know, it is a sports car. It's not meant to carry 4 people all the time in a trunk full of stuff. So, you know, from that standpoint, it might be a little bit of a con, but given the overall pros of this car, I really don't see that as a deal breaker. So my final impressions of this car are, it's a fun car to drive on a daily basis. It has no problems taking off, as you can see right there. But yet, when you want it to calm down and just be a relaxing daily driver, it's more than capable of doing that. So I think that, you know, the 2015 Mustang is a fantastic upgrade from the previous generations, and I do recommend it if you're looking for, you know, a fun rear-wheel drive sports car. That's pretty much going to wrap up this review. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you on the flip side. Peace.